All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of Small Guys Podcast. Today we are ripping The Sting. It is from 1973. Following the murder of a mutual friend, aspiring con man Johnny Hooker teams up with old pro Henry Gondorff to take revenge on the ruthless crime boss responsible, Doyle Lonnegan. Hooker and Gandorf set about implementing an elaborate scheme, one so crafty that Lonnegan won't even know he's been swindled. As their big con unfolds, however, things don't go according to plan, requiring some last minute improvisation by the undaunted duo.
Yep, and it's got a 93 critic score, 95 audience on Rotten Tomatoes. 2 hours, 9 minutes. Comedy drama.
I could see that. I could see where the comedy came in because I was chuckling just a hair. This is a good movie.
Yeah, so we should start it off by saying a recurring guest who's been on this a couple times. Nick Pell recommended us watching this. It's currently on Netflix. I think that's where I watched it. It's on a couple different things. It's a classic movie. I've always heard about this movie. I love Robert Redford, so and the late great Paul Newman. But yeah, I've never seen it before. I don't think Nick's seen it before until like last week for the first time, and then he kept texting me to watch it. He knows that I like heist movies and
Mhm.
stuff like that. So that I would love this. A lot of gambling in this. Maybe he kind of alluded that to me. Uh, but yeah, I guess what did you think? It's our first time watching it as well.
Yeah, it was a fun fucking watch. I know we talked about this off the podcast, but for it being 1973 and being an over 2 hour movie, dude, like I didn't know that they were making movies like this. I won't even lie. Like I thought most movies were around like the maybe 100-minute mark. But no, this was really fucking good. And this is another one where my mom was working and I was working from the couch and I was like, "You know what? I'm just going to throw this on right now." And we both sat there in awe. We're just like, "This is really fucking great." And she
Yeah.
loves those old timey movies. She's so as soon as we finished, she like looked up and was like, "I can't believe I've never seen this before." And I go, "Honestly, I never heard about it until 4 days ago."
Wow. Yeah, and that's the thing too. I mean, my dad was like 4, I think, when this came out. 3. It came out on Christmas Day too, 1973.
Damn, really?
Yeah, and then it came to most streaming platforms May 8th, 2015. So I was gonna say somewhat recent. I guess it's 9 years ago now. Jeez, you're getting old, Brian.
Shut up,
Um,
dude. Just because you have a late birthday doesn't mean you're that much younger.
um, yeah, I guess I knew nothing about this movie before going into it. Besides Paul Newman and Robert Redford were in it.
I
I
didn't
don't
even
know if you knew
recognize
anything.
Redford. I had to fucking look him up. Paul Newman, I knew right away.
Yeah, see, I feel like if we made like Mikey watch this, he'd be like, "That's the dude from Captain America."
I didn't even think about that. I'm an idiot.
Yeah, I mean that's probably one of the more recent things I think I've seen him in. But yeah, he was great in this movie.
Mhm.
Obviously, he's. I think he's probably, I can assume, most people's favorite character when watching this. I know he's mine. I mean, he's the main character that we follow throughout the movie. Um, I guess just to talk about it, we don't have to go like scene by scene or anything crazy, but just to talk about kind of the acting and some of our favorite scenes. I think at the beginning, when he finds his partner, who's played by Robert Earl Jones,
Mhm.
Luther, dead. I think that's one of my first favorite scenes to start the movie. I feel like the acting there was really good, really sold it. You could tell too, like they've been close best friends for a long time. The way Henry, or not Henry, sorry, Hooker interacts with his family when he comes over. Them stealing the 5K, which you got to think back then in the 1930s, 5K is a ton of money.
Right.
It's a lot of money now. So
Mhm.
you know, so
Yeah, no, I like that too because again, you don't really know what you're going into. Like obviously you can read the description and it just had a really good pace like right from the beginning. Like you don't even know what's going on. Like you see him walk into the office and then you see him leave with the envelope and before you know it they're on their first fucking con. And then they get the money and they take off and they realize how much money they were able to swindle off him. And again, from there, you see him going fucking suit shopping. He's buying flowers. He's fucking getting a bottle of champagne. He's ready to celebrate. And then he goes and Hooker gambles all the money away. Gets stopped by who is going to be a reoccurring character. What the fuck was the lieutenant's name? I'm blanking right now. Uh, Snyder.
Snyder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you see Snyder pull up on him, and it almost felt like Peaky Blinders in a sense, like the number of times cops. And yeah, he just wants what, 2 grand or something like that, and he gives him
Mhm.
counterfeit bills, dude, just to get him off his back. And like, and that's another cool thing that works throughout the movie is like they're trying to pull this con, but Snyder's constantly on his fucking back, like tracing him down and trying to figure out what the fuck he's doing.
Listen to this. Okay, so guess inflation $5,000 1936 to
Oh,
today.
oh God, is it is it like 60 grand? Jesus
$108,000. Yeah,
Christ.
yeah. Over the 88 years, this has
That
changed 103,000.
that's a lick.
Dude, and he went and just threw it on fucking roulette.
Which was bullshit. I thought they were gonna get the revenge for that. Like I thought he
Hmm.
totally knew that that was a con man, and like
Right.
that he was gonna come back and get his. But whatever, can't get it all. We saw it paid out in the end.
Yeah, he just shows up. He's like, I blew it all. This is clearly something that happens in his life all the time.
Yep. And again, because that 5 grand, Luther was ready to fucking not have to work like that anymore. Like he was ready to fucking. What was he gonna buy in? His brother? Did he say Frito?
I think so.
Yeah, so it was like a Frito factory, and he was gonna go buy in there, and he goes, "It's basically almost all legal," which is funny because it's like he's hinting like I'm still gonna be a little bit of a con man, but not really.
Yeah.
And then yeah, but once he gets stopped by Snyder, and he pays him off, he takes off running. And again, we had just saw the interaction with how close he was with Luther's family, and Luther's family wasn't even there. Like he just saw the window was busted and ran down to Luther, and then that's like when his family came down and was crying and stuff, and you're like, oh fuck. But thankfully, when Luther was on the way out, he gave him that card. And that was where we got to see Gandorf, or get to, or I guess how the introduction started was like that card. And it worked perfectly. So I think it was great pacing. Again, just from the beginning. And then it's like, boom, we're in it. He meets Gandorf and they're trying to work out their next big score.
Yeah, I waited like I think almost 20 minutes goes by and Paul Newman's still not in the movie and I'm like I know he's one of the top names on this when I looked it up. So I'm like,
Hmm.
where the hell's Paul Newman? He finally shows up. So love his character too.
His character was
Seasoned
fucking
pro.
good.
Yeah. He's like I think he says it at some point in the movie, but he's like, I'm one of like 5 people in the world that can teach you stuff like this.
Hmm.
Really cool. Like he's literally learning from the best. And Hooker's got talent, right? He knew, he's swindler.
Hmm.
He's somewhat of a pro
Grifter.
himself.
They kept
Yeah.
calling him a grifter, which was cool because when he was talking to the guy before Snyder pulled up, and he's like, "Don't you want to like do something other than grifting?" He's like, "I love it." Like he loves that high of grifting people, which
Yeah.
is like a real scummy thing. But as a viewer, you're like, "Yeah, man, I get it. It's the '30s. There's not cameras everywhere. Like it was probably so easy to do that shit.
Yeah.
Never seen again. And you skip town. You go like 2 hours away. No one's finding you, man."
Right.
You could
Dude, and the
change your name and no one would know you. We could move to the other side of downriver in that time, Josh, and no one would know who the fuck we were.
dude, the amount the amount of running scenes, chasing scenes that there
Mhm.
are in
He
this
was
movie is
fast as
insane.
fuck too, bro.
Yeah.
And he was doing those. Like I know that we both worn dress shoes. I could not book it like that, dude. Like it hurts to walk
No.
in those bitches.
Yeah. No, dude, he was moving multiple times where it's like and it's almost I mean, obviously it was shot in the early 70s, but it's one of those movies where it's like not cutting away constantly.
Hmm.
I think I saw a clip on Twitter the other day. It was Taken 3, I want to say. When it's Liam Neeson, he's like jumping over these fences and stuff.
Yeah,
If you've seen, I saw the movie a long, long time ago, so I didn't really remember. But it's constantly cutting, constantly jump
dude.
cuts,
What's
constantly.
disgusting? I think I've talked about this before. Well, I definitely have on here. But I took like it was a film culture class my freshman year of college, and we're watching all these old movies. You got to watch all the classics, see how it starts. And when you notice like the cuts and stuff, again, they're working on it. Even this one was funny. They were doing like Microsoft PowerPoint transitions, like where the screen would just rotate and then it would randomly fucking like just go to something else, and it was like, okay, like I get it, it's the '70s. But again, from that class, when you start noticing more and more, you watch these new like movies or even TV shows, dude, and a chase scene like that is like almost disgusting. The way that everything is just transitioning, you're like, oh, stop it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I want to talk about one of my favorite scenes in the movie. And I'm not trying to jump too far ahead, but
Hmm.
the whole train sequence part of the movie where they're
Dude,
playing
yes,
poker,
yes.
awesome scene.
That was, I think, some of my favorite parts, especially because now, I guess to get to it, they understand who killed Luther, and they want to like get him. They want his score, like they want the big score to be on him because it's like we're doing this for Luther, and you put together some of the best people. And honestly, I think Twist might be one of my favorites because Twist is so old, but like he's got all types of connections, and everyone respects the shit out of him. Like you gotta love a character like that. And
Hmm.
so, like, was Twist the one that told them about the game? Is that how they found
Yeah.
out about the game? Yeah. So he
Yeah.
tells them about it, and so again, the second man, I thought he was going to be in the train with him, and I was like, how would that work? Like, that would be insane. But I like how they did it. So they had it so that way Gandorf went in there and he was flaunting his dollars and he got his way into the game. But what I really loved is before the game started, when he's sitting there, dude, and he has that thing of gin and he pours it in his hand and starts rubbing it on himself so that way he'll smell like alcohol. He takes a swig, doesn't even drink it, and spits it out, and then dumps like half of it out and pours in water just so that way he
Hmm.
can appear hammered. And you're like, dude, that is great. Like,
Genius.
it is. And then on top of that, too, you can see how smooth he is with the cards because when they're showing that, I was like, all right, that's going to come in handy. Let's see like how it plays out. And you could see when he finally switches up and he wants to cheat and get all of Gandorf's money, uh, and they try to set him up to have what was it, four threes?
Hmm.
Yeah, and instead he pulls
Yeah,
up
he
with the
had
four
four.
jacks.
Yeah.
Oh my
Dude, I love
god.
it too because they ask him, like, why didn't you call him out for it? He's like, what do you want me to call him out for cheating better than me? So good. So good. Dude, and then he goes back in the room to talk to Hooker and he's like, good luck topping that.
Hmm.
So good.
Dude, yeah. And then, because again, they don't really let you in on what Hooker's going to do there at all.
Hmm.
And so you're finding out at the same time. And for a second, you're like, did Hooker just switch up on him that fucking fast? And then you realize it's all part of the fucking plan.
Yeah, and I think at that point I wasn't tricked yet. I do get tricked later on in the movie,
Hmm. Same.
100%.
Same.
I mean, I don't know how you don't when you watch this for the first time, but yeah, I was tricked later on. But yeah, I was like, okay, what's the plan here? And then like not too long after the train sequence, he gives him 2K to go bet on a horse.
Hmm.
Like that scene too. That part was really cool when they're in there listening to the horse race. That
Dude,
is
and
another
I
horse
love
race.
because again, you don't know. Like, I guess if I missed it, maybe someone else that was paying attention caught it. But like, that's what they were gonna do is they were gonna set that whole thing up, and you can see them setting it up, but it's when Twist goes to the bar and he needs the best names, and I love that they just have a hangout for all these fucking grifters to come in to town. Because again, they're like, oh, we got the big boys from Louisiana, we got these boys in from New York. Like, here's take your picking. And then what was really cool is I feel bad for forgetting his name because he was a good character. But the guy that was friends with Hooker that was there when he got stopped,
Mm.
I forget his name, but he was in that bar when Snyder showed up, and Twist is just in the back, like talking to the boss, but they have the little peephole, and they could see
Hmm.
Snyder. But when Snyder stops and asks him where Hooker's at, he goes, "Ah, I heard he joined the detective bureau, see," and he fucking just slams his face. Like, that was funny as fuck.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's all like an elaborate ruse. It's part of it. I like when they go in the back room and they're like, "All right, we're all good," and he just like stops reading it, the horse race, because
Hmm.
it's just all made up.
Hmm.
Or I'm sure it's probably just an old horse race from
Right.
like years ago that they're reading off. Um, but yeah, I'm like, okay, so he gives him 2K, then they pay him money because I was trying to keep track of how much money they're making and stuff off him because they're trying to do the big con. But yeah, so they give him 2K. He wins. I think it's 4-1 odds or 8-1 odds or whatever. So he makes like
Hmm.
16K. He only gives him, or he makes 15K and he only gives him 1K back as payment
Yeah,
for
he makes
Hooker.
16K and gives him one back. He goes, "Well, you owed me 15."
Right. Yeah, and I think in the long con he wasn't supposed to give him a lot of money
Hmm.
because at that point I'm like, oh what's Hooker gonna do? Because he only got paid $1K for that. So like, what's going on with their plan? Is that a fork in the road? So that started me just being tricked
I
in the
agree
process.
because again, we're not completely in on it as a viewer. So like when he's sitting there at his place and he gives him the 1K and he's like playing like he's super pissed. Again, you don't know, is he like genuinely pissed or is this all a ruse? Like you have to sit in here and the guy you're trying to swindle be like, "Oh man, he just fucked me out of that money," but also like we're going to get him. I don't know. It was a good ruse. I was a fan.
Yeah. Well, and then too, I think earlier in the movie, like him saying, "Well, good luck topping that." It's like, okay, you don't think that Hooker's plan is going to take multiple days, if not weeks, to conspire? But yeah, I don't know. Do you like in a movie when they don't let you in on all the secrets, when they keep you in the dark in a way? I mean, I know like a lot of mystery movies obviously do that, but I guess in a movie like this where they're con men trying to trick someone, do you like when they kind of keep you in the dark?
I do like that because again, it almost feels like the con's on us, especially with the big
Hmm.
twist that comes in the last 30 minutes. Like, yeah, like I really fucking like that.
Yeah,
And again, you
yeah, I do.
don't
I do too.
know, you don't know if Lonnegan is even smart enough to realize what's happening. That's another thing too that I had going on because again, he is a powerful man, and you would think that he'd be very used to this, but
Right.
at the same time, Hooker's literally underneath his nose. Like he hasn't put together that he's the one that hit him for 11K.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing too. Is Lonnegan is this very powerful man, very rich. Probably has a bunch of yes men around him. He's always got those goons with him.
Hmm.
But yeah, he's a pretty big power figure in their area for sure. So,
Yeah.
uh, yeah, I guess another scene too that really got me convinced that Hooker was going to portray was him meeting with the FBI, him finally getting caught.
Oh
What'd you
god,
think of
that
that?
that shit was good. I was so pissed. I was like, your boy just died, and before he died, he hooked you up with one of the best con men in the world, and you're gonna double cross him? Like you can't do that on Luther's grave. You cannot do that. And you see him talking, and again, you're pissed because Snyder is a piece of shit. Like he's a dirty cop and he's doing all this over 2K while we know that there's $500,000 on the line. Like it really irked me. And it's like, that's so shitty that he would put him down like that.
Mhm.
But oh boy, did they get us.
Yeah, and now like I'm thinking back to it, I'm like, was that just a scene to trick us?
It was. I think that is definitely a scene to make us be like the, what would it be? Like we're the connies? We're the ones getting con?
Did Hooker not know? Maybe. Well, I
Well,
mean,
he
what's the
he
point? What's
must
the point
have.
of him being arrested, brought there,
He must well
unless?
because again they needed to trick Snyder is what we find out, and so they
Mm,
approached him, and they set up that whole station,
I see.
in that warehouse. They needed
Right.
Snyder to think that they were super professional.
Mm, okay,
So
that
again,
makes more
they're
sense.
still getting you, bro. They're still conning you.
They're still kind of me. Well, I was
This
like,
is
wait, what
hours
was the point
later.
of that scene? If they're all in on it, who's that for? That makes no sense. That's the thing is, I want to say too. I feel like when a movie does leave you in the dark like this, it does allow more rewatchability, right? To watch it again to see
Hmm.
how they pulled off the con, maybe notice things you didn't notice the first time around. So I like when movies do that.
I'd
But
agree.
yeah, I mean, watching for the first time, obviously you're gonna get tricked. I would have trouble believing someone watched this movie without kind of being conned
Hmm.
into it.
Which,
Uh,
on top of that, too, before he meets with the FBI and
uh,
Snyder, that running scene with Snyder, dude, that's when he was fucking booking it. When he jumps off the tracks, dude, like, that dude is crazy. Even my mom looked
yeah,
up and goes, "That's parkour before parkour was even a thing." And I go, "You're so right."
yeah, he's climbing up on the on the
It's just
train
a
track.
great way because again, we already know he's portrayed as squirrely, and then he literally gets squirrely and just jumps off of shit. Like, all right,
Yeah,
man, he can't get caught.
yeah, he like gets his. Well, it starts in the phone booth, right? He
Yeah,
gets him with the gun.
which was smooth. He fucking that dumbass broke the glass and put it there, and then he just kicked the door, and you're like, perfect. Now he's trapped.
Let him get that start. Yeah, dude, he's chased a lot throughout this movie.
um,
He always gets away.
he's squirrely,
Um,
bro.
he meets a nice woman at this diner. They have a few scenes together. but then he ends up kind of getting with her,
Hmm.
having a one night stand with her. What did you think of that scene when they're walking down the alley looking at each other?
Well, one, it was very cool that he learned to use the back door because that's
Yes.
what fucking Lonnegan had told him earlier. Which we skipped over that scene, which was funny as fuck. The sit down because Lonnegan wanted to meet Hooker's partner, so he
All right.
calls Twist, and they end up taking over that guy's office, running as painters.
Yeah.
And then they
Love
kick
that.
the guy out, and he leaves a message that he'll be gone for the day. And when the guy comes into the office, like maybe a third of one wall is painted green, and no one else is to be found anywhere. But that's when Lonigan gives him that advice, like you always use the back door. So when he walks into that apartment, he uses the back door. And again, I thought that guy was an FBI agent that was there that was just going to gun him
I
down
did
like
too.
right there. And because
Yeah.
again, you don't know what's going on, you just see him preparing and putting a silencer on his gun. You're like, okay, like I didn't even know they had silencers back then.
Yeah.
Um, but you see him and you're like, okay. But then he walks past him and he doesn't come out for a second, and then you see the girl, dude. That fucking got me. That got me so good.
Yeah, yeah. She gets shot in the head, and I'm like, wait, did he just miss him?
Hmm.
What's happening? And that little run he does, like he just goes full sprint and stops on a dime. No cutaways, which is just how the movies are shot back then. But like, it was kind of funny. It made me laugh that run because he just went full speed. He was moving,
Well,
and then
that's
he
what us small
stops.
guys can do, bro. Like we could fucking book it and stop on a dime.
Yeah, short kings. But yeah, and then it's revealed that she was gonna shoot him.
Hmm. Because she was working for
Crazy.
who? She was one of Lonigan's goons, technically, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, she
yeah,
was a professional. And he was like, well, she could have got me last night. And then, like, literally, we saw the little old lady that had saw him go into the apartment, like, look at his face. Like, she
right.
would have known that she did that shit.
Yeah,
But yeah, no.
so
And then
good.
literally, because again, I'm still not convinced. And then he pulls open her jacket and there's just a gun, which also had
Yeah,
a silencer on it. And you're like, holy fuck, like, he was right. And then he tells him what that fucking uh oh god, I'm blanking. Gandorf. He's one of Gandorf's boys.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they before she got shot, they were giving each other like the weirdest walk towards each other ever. I'm like, what's happening here? And
Hmm.
so it made sense, I guess, that she was trying to kill him. I don't know why else you'd act that sus, but um, yeah. And then so after that, we're kind of every I'd say 20, 30 minutes, there's like a point where, and it's almost like a book, like a new chapter begins. Like there's a title
I really
sequence
like
sort of
that a
thing.
lot, and I'm
Me too.
sure because again it is a Nick Bell pick. I'm sure he loved that a lot too. And
Yeah.
then it well obviously it reminds me of it because that's what Quentin was going for. But you were there with us when we saw Hateful Eight, right?
Right.
Yeah, and they broke it down. We watched that special, it was 80 millimeter feature, and they broke it down like that into the four acts, and they all had names to it. And I like that
Hmm.
because I had forgotten that's like a very big thing for the times.
Right. Yeah. So then I like that, and then I think the last one, and it's called The Sting.
Uh-huh.
Uh,
And I was wondering
there's like
because
20 minutes left.
I was gonna say I had to pause it. I was like, how much is left in this movie? And it said 20 minutes, and I was like, all right, here we fucking go. Like we're in it.
Yeah. Yeah, because you feel the over 2 hours. Not that it drags by any means at all,
Hmm.
but like, you could tell it's over 2 hours. I'd say for this type of movie. But yeah, the to get more to the end, they meet back in that I don't even know what you'd call it, I guess. Gambling cave in a way. The horse
Yeah,
race.
yeah, the face, the fake
Yeah,
horse track.
yeah, fake horse track. Yeah, and he bets 500,000, right?
Yep, 500K.
Let's
And
see what
again,
that is.
and
Oh, you
again,
can
he gets
guess.
well.
It's 10
Okay,
million.
we said
10
it's
million.
it's 10 million.
It's got to be, yeah.
Jesus
Wait,
fuck. Well,
I
yeah.
I might be missing a zero.
Well, because we said 11K was a
Five
hundred
thousand's
thousand.
100K,
5,000's 100K.
so it'd be 10 million.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just
That's
that's
some
just good math.
significant cheese. I'm proud of you, dude. You were quicker
Thank
than
you.
me there.
Yeah, yeah. That. Oh, well, I get why he's fucking pissed.
Yeah, but
There's
also,
fucking 10 million in there.
which is funny though too, because uh, when they're on the train, another great thing, Gandalf uses. I'm assuming that's his wife, right? Did they ever say?
I don't think they say. Could be his girlfriend, I guess.
Okay, girlfriend, wife, serious booth thing. He's not a tie down type of man, but
He
that's
doesn't
his
get tied down.
woman. But he has her pickpocket on the train 15K off of Lonnegan, right? And then when he goes in there later, he's like, "Oh, he stole this from you. Like, you don't have your money." So there's that beef there. And now he
Right.
wants to get one over him, and that's why they're like having Lonnegan go in there and place the bets for a Hooker, so that way Hooker can get back at his boss. Um, but when he asks for the to do the 500K, he's like, "That could ruin us." Which again, he's so good at selling it. He goes like, "That could ruin this whole operation," and he's like, "Oh, it's something about basically being a gambling man," is what he says. Because like he could technically get a shit ton of money off this man if he's wrong.
Right. Yeah, I think the horse is 4-1.
Yes, yeah, it was gonna be
So
2 million at the end of it.
yeah, which is 40 million now.
Which is also
Some
funny
math, just some math.
when they sit in the chair, and he's like, "That horse is coming in second." And he goes, "I need my money back."
Yeah, awesome scene.
And again, at this point, when Hooker had met with the FBI, he was dead set, and again convinced us he was dead set that they were going to swindle, or that he was going to turn on Gandorf. And he was like, "There's going to be two guys at the door. Neither one of them are armed." And he goes, "Lonnegan's going to be there, so like you got to get him out of there." And they're like, "Okay, like our first priority will be us getting Lonnegan out of there, and then we'll take down Gandorf." And he's like, "All right, cool." So when they burst in, Lonnegan's at the fucking teller, right? Would that be what it is? Not a
Yeah.
gambling man like yourself. He's at the teller trying to get his money back. So they burst in, they're like FBI, whatever. And now Snyder is like telling Lonnegan that they have to go. And the fake FBI agent walks up and is like, "All right, Gandorf, it's over." And looks at Hooker and is like, "All right, kid, you're good to go." And he looks over at fucking Gandorf and starts walking away. And then boom, you know what's coming. He shoots him right in the back. Fucking Hooker goes down. You're like, "Oh shit, it's one of those movies. Like everyone
It's
dies."
like The Departed.
Exactly. So then the fake
Yeah.
FBI agent fucking shoots fucking Gandorf. And you're like, "All right, well, our two main characters are dead. Like, we did all this for nothing. Like, what the fuck?" And lo and behold, once fucking Snyder got out of there with Lonnegan, the FBI guy was like, "All right, he's gone." And you see them just start wiping their mouths, and they had blood packs on them. Oh, I was conned. I
Dude,
was conned, baby.
okay, so here's the thing. Before he kills the one night stand, or before the one night stand,
Hmm.
they run into each other in the alley. Before he leaves his apartment,
Right.
you see him bite into something and put it in his mouth, like
Yep.
in his coat pocket. And I remember I'm watching like really closely, and I'm like, "Is that a blood capsule?"
Hmm.
I'm like, probably not. And still, when I saw his ass get shot, I was convinced he got shot. I'm
I
so
didn't.
stupid.
I didn't even notice that part, Josh. So like, I was full dead set. Like, oh shit, it's like Dead Presidents. Everyone just goes out in a blaze.
Right, yeah, and then I think when Gondorff got shot, I was like, okay, this is real.
Hmm.
Because I was convinced the
That was a real
FBI.
that was a real FBI. Yeah, you're
Yeah,
convinced. Like,
that's what got me.
see, and what I was scared of was that he had told Gandorf the situation, and he used a fake bullet, not anticipating the FBI agent to also like be in on it. So I thought
Right.
in the end that Gandorf just got killed for no fucking reason. Or
Yeah,
unless they were going to give us like a flashback where he's like, "I've done my time. Like, you enjoyed this money." I don't know,
right.
but no, that got me for a second, and then you find out the whole thing was a ruse. And again, they plant the FBI guy an hour into the movie, probably hour 10.
Hmm.
So like you think it's real, like you think the FBI are actually there, because again, he is a top 5 con man in the world. Like
Right.
like anyone that's actually FBI probably does know who the fuck Gandorf is, and I'm
Yeah, and
assuming
Hooker's a criminal.
exactly Hooker's definitely
They can
made a
get
name
charges
for
on him.
himself.
Right.
Oh
Yeah,
man.
dude, I was convinced. I was like,
Hmm.
wow. Because I thought right away, one of the few movies that are like really good that the main characters die. I'm like, this is The Departed.
Hmm.
Spoiler alert if you've never seen The Departed.
The
Um,
Departed.
The Departed. I was like, is this The Departed? The Departed? But yeah, no, that's not the case. They get up, everyone's celebrating. They tricked him. They got Lonnegan out of there
Yep.
because he's a very important
He
man. He's
goes,
being caught
"My
with two dead
money," and
bodies.
he goes, "There's 2 dead bodies in there. We need to get you away from that."
Yeah. And to see those two walk out the same door
Hmm.
5 minutes later,
Yep.
it's hilarious. But yeah, I guess So Hooker doesn't take the money, right? He doesn't really take his cut. He was like, I'd blow it anyway. I thought that was that's a good callback
He
back to what
leveled up.
his
He did
character is.
level up. I'm assuming he got
Yeah.
some though.
Well, I think what was for him was getting the revenge,
Mm-hmm.
for
Got to
Luther. So
got
I
to do it
think,
for the boy Luther.
yeah, I think that was his payment, which I
Mm-hmm.
like that a lot. I think that says a lot about the character. He evolves through this movie, obviously with his skill, and just the type of person he is. Even though most of the time we see him, he's not being genuine. He's
Mm-hmm.
doing a con for most of the movie, I'd say,
Yeah.
not the whole movie. But I think that's really cool to see the development of a character who isn't even completely being himself for a good chunk of the movie. I
Mm-hmm.
think that's pretty cool. So, all right, you want to get into movie trivia? It's
Yeah.
pretty good.
Yeah. What you got for the
This
movie
movie.
trivia?
All right, we got Paul Newman and Robert Redford were each paid $500,000 for their role, the highest rate for an actor working at the time. Adjusted for the inflation, this would be equal to $3 million in 2022. And
Damn.
the year before this, Marlon Brando earned $3 million for Last Tango in Paris, 1972, but included the profit participation. So when I heard $500,000 for both those guys. They're big names, obviously, and they were back then. But I'm like, oh, that's a lot for a movie in the early '70s, I guess. But George Roy Hill, who was the director for this movie, used some 1930s stylistic techniques. The film started with a 1930s era Universal logo and used editing wipes to transition between scenes. That's pretty cool. I haven't seen a lot of 1930s movies. I think the oldest movie we've done on this podcast was Clockwork Orange, which is 1971, so 2 years
Mm-hmm.
before this. Robert Shaw injured his knee and incorporated the result of limping in his performance. He plays Lonnegan, and I see him limp throughout this movie, and I was like, what's going on with him? And then when he gets the briefcase of money and he's walking down the hall up to the elevator, I'm like, is the briefcase really heavy? Or is it that damn limp? And I'm like, it's gotta be the limp. Because I'm like, $500,000 cash in there. It's probably pretty heavy.
Again, well, because I noticed the limp on the train, and I was like, well, it is a bumpy ride, and like it's bumpy even if I've
Yeah.
been on an Amtrak last year, and then like walking through the train, I'm like, oh shit.
This is pretty cool. Robert Redford didn't see the movie until June 2004.
Really?
Waited 30 years.
Wow.
I don't know why that is, but yeah. This one's pretty cool too. Edith Head won her 8th and final Best Costume Design Academy Award for this film. She said, "Just imagine dressing the two most handsome men in the world and then getting this award."
We're actually not. Well, we're at it. Are Paul Newman's eyes actually that fucking blue?
I don't think
Because
so.
even me as a man, I'm like, wow.
Yeah, and Robert Redford's jawline could cut glass.
He looked like Owen Wilson, yeah. I kept
They
thinking
both
that.
kind of did. Yeah, well, it's because he's got that blonde hair.
Yep.
That type of hair. And yeah, it's like his like nose and below
Mhm.
looks like Owen Wilson. I completely thought that too.
Good. I'm glad I wasn't the only one.
And Owen Wilson must have been 6, 7 when this came out. Probably.
Maybe. Well, yeah, probably.
This movie's over 50 years old.
I was going to say, this movie's old as fuck. When Nick Pell said we were doing this one, I had to text our chat and be like, The Sting 1973? Like, is it that old?
Yeah, so I don't know why I thought The Sting, because I've heard a lot about it, I thought The Sting was something from the 90s.
Maybe because at first my mind went to Heat. Maybe you were thinking that.
Well, see, I've seen Heat a ton of times. Like, I don't know. That's 1995.
Maybe what we're thinking of the sequel, The Sting 2.
Yeah, which
That
I didn't
was
know existed until
80
an hour ago.
Yeah, I know. I just looked at it. I think it's like 85 or 86.
Are they both in it?
That's a good question. Let's find out.
Okay. Yeah, so I don't know. It was pretty interesting. It's crazy to think though, because this movie's 50 years old. And in the movie it's taking place in the 30s, which is almost 100 years ago, which is crazy to think about. Over 100 years ago. Almost 100 years ago.
Yeah, no, it looks like the only familiar name I'm seeing here is Lonnegan was in it.
Yeah, and it obviously got a PG rating. Back then, the ratings were different than what they are now. I assume
Oh,
with
the
the killing,
fucking
it'd
good
probably
old
be PG
days.
13. Yeah, now the killing and gambling would probably bring up the rating a little bit more on the age there, but back in the day, it's pretty cool. Uh, yeah, but I guess do you want to kind of get into scoring on this? I don't know what Nick Pale's. We don't know what Nick Pale's score was going to be. Again, he was going to be on this with us. He just couldn't make it. But he had a ton of good stuff to say about this movie.
Hmm.
So we'll probably ask him after the fact. Maybe we'll post on the website. So go look if you want to if you're curious. Smallguyspod.com.
.com.
Um, but yeah, go ahead, Brian.
All right. So, like I said earlier, with this being 2 hours and 9 minutes, I was unfamiliar with their game back then. I did not know that they were doing shit like that, and so I was a little worried at first because it is a Nick Pell pick. Love him, but I know that he is a fan of slow burns. So I was like, is this gonna be one of those? And it wasn't. It really wasn't because from the death of Luther, you're just kind of going, 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 and anything that they show is kind of good plot. I will say there was quite a few scenes of them just eating. Like before the sting, you just see fucking Hooker sitting there eating, and even my mom goes, "They really emphasize them eating," and I was like, "It's probably just because it's an easy shot for them to do for back in the time." But other than that, no, the pacing was fucking great on this, and great story. Again, I feel like as if I was the one that was conned because you think Hooker's gonna be a fucking FBI informant and trade in his buddy. Well, now we've seen them like become super close that he had met from a good buddy that died doing this shit. And it's great to know that in the end they were able to fucking do it for him. They were able to get that revenge. They were able to get that big score finally, and
Yeah.
it was a happy ending. I was glad of that. I was again afraid at that ending, like, oh my god, everyone dies. Like, what the fuck?
Everything goes to
Yeah,
shit.
exactly. If everyone died, then Nick would have just been like, "That's good movies, dude. Like, what? Everything's not a happy ending." I'm like, all right, come on.
This is a Disney.
Yeah, exactly. That would have been exactly what he would have fucking told us. But again, I would revisit this one. I definitely
Yeah.
would. Not like instantly. Like if I tell someone to watch it and I'm happening to be over and they were like, "Well, let's just watch it now," I'd be like, "All right, cool." Um, but I feel like I got to give it an 88.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good score. I'm not actually pretty close to that. Yeah, I think you said it well. I think if a movie about cons and trickery can con and trick the viewer, I think that kind of speaks volumes to how good the movie is and how good the writing is.
Hmm.
Um, I thought the music was really good. I was completely convinced they're in the 1930s, like the way the design worked, the costumes, the set designs really had me sold on it being the 30s. So I thought that was really cool. And I thought about it. I'm like, it's kind of almost, if you think about it, like Tarantino writing um, Hollywood in the 80s, which takes place in the 80s, 90s, with Leo and Brad Pitt. For George Roy Hill, he probably grew up 40s, 50s, you know what I mean? Like that era. So
Yep.
like for him to make a movie about that, I thought that was kind of cool and it reflects like how directors do that nowadays, taking us back to like the 80s, 90s. So thought that whole aspect was really good. But yeah, I think Paul Newman and Robert Redford did an amazing job. It's hard to imagine someone back then doing what they did in those positions if they got different actors. I wonder how that would have played out. Um, so yeah, like I said, Johnny Hooker was my favorite character, and to see the way the ending worked out, I was happy. I don't know how I would have felt if everyone died at the end. I don't know. And for a movie to do something like that back in the 70s, I'd be curious to see. You know, it's got like you said, it's got 93 from critics, 95 from audiences. Like, would those reviews be as good if it ended like that? People like a happy ending. You know what I mean? So it'd be interesting to see if they went there in a different universe or whatever like that, just to see how people would take that. Because me and Brian were convinced. So I'm gonna go with an 89. I definitely think I'll probably rewatch this down the road. It's got that rewatchability, like I said, because you know you can see outside of the con. You can be part of the team the second time around, which is pretty cool.
It's a great way of saying it, Joshua.
But you'll never be able to watch it again for the first time. unless you
No.
lose your
And
memory.
again, with it being that old, I was a little skeptical, especially because it's an old movie from '73, and then like you said, it takes place in the '30s. I was like, the hell are we watching? Like, how are they going to portray this so well? But it was good. It was good as hell. Kind of made me want to go back and play the Mafia games, the way he was running through the alleys and shit.
I thought L.A. Noir a little bit,
Yes,
a little
yes.
bit.
If
Yeah,
it would have been Cali, yeah, I probably would be on that game like tonight.
right. Yeah, I think it was just him running from the FBI agent. Like all the running scenes was just making me think that.
Hmm.
I mean, the amount of times Hooker runs across the street when cars are coming, I thought he was definitely gonna get hit by a car. And then seeing the old cars too, I was like, that reminds me of L.A. Noir.
Hmm.
So, but yeah, that was our the Sting review, 1973. Um, the plan is the Oscar noms just got announced. We want to do a couple more Oscar movies before giving our Oscar picks. We do Oscar episode every year right before the Oscars. This year it's March 10th. I thought it'd be sooner than that. I don't know why I thought it'd be the end of February. I could have swore that's when last year's was, but maybe I'm wrong.
Well,
But yeah,
didn't
it's
last year
March
didn't
10th.
it fall on the Super Bowl? Wasn't it some shit like that?
It was a couple days after. I think what was it? I think Golden Globes or something like
Okay.
that was maybe during the Super Bowl. But yeah, so we want to watch a couple more. People were snubbed. Margot Robbie.
Yep.
Um,
Bullshit.
yeah, Sydney was pretty upset about it. But yeah, so we're definitely going to talk about all that stuff. We're excited to watch a couple more of these movies, give our picks, our predictions as to what's going to win, what's not going to win. But thank you guys for listening. We'll see you guys next time.
Yes, sir. All right. Love you, Josh.